Hey you guys, it's Yolanda here from My Pretty Brown Doll and wanted to come on really quickly and do a video and show you guys how I sew my wig caps onto the doll's head. So I get a lot of questions about how I create this subtle ripple effect around the edges. There are some people who think that I'm leaving something out of the pattern because they are thinking that like I'm skipping stitches or doing larger stitches like half double or double crochet to create this subtle ripple effect, and I am not. This is actually created because of how I sew the wig cap on. And so I am going to show you guys how I do that. If you are interested in any of my doll patterns, all of my doll patterns are available on Etsy. I am etsy.com/shop/my pretty brown doll. So I'm my pretty brown doll on Etsy. So if you're interested in making your own version of my pretty brown doll, you can find the patterns on Etsy. But like I said, this video is going to show you how I actually sew the wig cap on. So I have a head here finished as well as her wig cap finished. And when I fasten off the wig cap, I do leave a long tail because the long tail is what I'm going to use to sew the wig cap on. So I do have a long tail and I am just using a regular yarn needle. So long tail, yarn needle, and wig cap done. And then we're going to sew this onto her head. So I do smooth it down to kind of make sure there are no, there's like no air underneath this or anything. So I make it as flush to her head as possible. As you can see, I kind of want the back of this pretty much touching almost where her neck starts. So probably like one row right before her neck starts. So I don't sit it like directly on her head. I do kind of slide it back a little bit. And then we have, like I said, yarn needle, the long tail. And what I'm going to do is I will take this yarn needle and I am going to insert it right in between like where the last stitch is, like where the last stitch was made. So I'm going to insert it there. I'm going to go through a little, like maybe a little bit into her head, like into the actual skin tone of the doll. And then I'm going to come up one stitch over right in between the stitches again. So I'm coming up one stitch over and then I'm just going to pull that up, and then I pull just, I don't like pull it real tight, but I do give it a nice little pull. And then I'm going to go right into that next stitch. So right into the next one. Again, we're going down into the stitch. We're going to pull up a little bit of the actual skin tone, and then I'm going to skip a stitch and come up through the next one. It's important in order to create that effect that you're doing it around in between the stitches of that last row that you made. If you don't do it through the stitches of that last row, it's not going to create the same effect. And again, when you're pulling it up, you just want to tug just a little bit. Like, don't pull it like where it's super tight, but you do want to tug it just a little bit. And what happens is you're starting to see like that little ripple effect happen around her edges. And so again, I go through down under the next stitch, pull up a little bit of her head and come up through the next stitch and just pull a little snugly when I'm coming up. And we just do this all the way around. And like I said, what you see is this subtle ripple effect happening around her edges. Now, as I'm doing this, I do continue to smooth this out because like I said, I do want to make sure that it's not, it's flush to her actual head. And so again, we're just going to go all the way around, down, pull up a little bit of the head, come skip one stitch, come up through the next, and tug down, pull up a little bit of the head, up through the next stitch, and tug. And again, that's it. It's really simple, but I know it's easier when you actually see it versus when it's written out in the pattern. I think I say this is a whip stitch. My sewing people can tell me whether or not this is actually a whip stitch or not. I don't know what kind of stitch it is. It's the kind of stitch that works. Her wig cap is going to be secure on her head, but as I mentioned, it does create that subtle ripple effect around the edges that I like to make it look like her quote unquote baby hairs are laid without having to do like swoop bangs and things like that. And nothing against swoop bangs, it's just not my thing. Yeah, I just feel like every girl, her bangs ain't swooped. It's just not my thing. And so I just prefer this technique because it gives me the effect I want, but it's very subtle. And again, you're just going to do this all the way around. And when you get back to where you started, I do it one more time. And then I take this yarn. So now that we've gone all the way around, and again, you see how subtle that is? Just subtle little ripples around her edges. I'm just going to now just weave this through the wig cap to secure it. And that's it. That's all I need. And then I can take my scissors. I can snip off these edges. You can snip these edges off or snip off that. And that's it. So now her wig cap is secured. And again, just a nice, cute ripple effect around her head. Around her head. All right. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them below. Like I said, if you need links to patterns, they are available in my Etsy shop. All right, you guys, y'all enjoy the rest of your night.